All right, well, there's enough of us here, so let's get started. I just wanted to check in with, I wanted to hear you guys' coaching wins or successes from this week. So I'd love to hear how things are going. Who would like to go and share?
Well, I did meet with both of my practice clients this week, and it feels really good. And we'll see after we chat, Hannah, how well I did do, but it feels really good.
That's awesome. What specifically about it felt good to you?
I felt fairly confident. The listening, I definitely, you hone into that level 2 listening and what you're doing, especially when you're communicating with someone else. I don't know, on this level. It was definitely, especially today, I met with one person for the first time, and it was, I definitely shifted into that level 2 listening.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So
Congratulations.
I felt the shift.
I think it's a big indicator of you're doing the right thing when you feel good about it. Because if you were doubting or you didn't feel confident, sometimes it shows. But if like you feel confident and you feel good about it, I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, we'll get, as soon as I figure out how to do the cut and paste on the audio part after we're done here tonight, I'll send it.
You don't actually have to cut and paste. You could just tell, like, we could just listen to certain parts. So we make sure we hear the Design the Alliance part, or if there's a part later on you want us to listen to, you can just tell me and I can move the minutes.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to worry about cropping it.
Okay, that probably could save me a lot of time.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, if there's certain things you want us to make sure we listen to, because typically we listen to about 15 minutes and then talk for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
But of course, like if there's anything else you want me to listen to or extra questions, we can go a little bit longer. But yeah, don't worry about cropping it. We can definitely.
Okay, good. Okay.
All right.
Robin, were these people that you knew before?
One person was a personal training client that I had a couple of years ago. So we do have a common coaching kind of thing going on together. And then the other one is just somebody at work who I just felt would say yes, and she did. She's a new person at work. She was somebody new, so it worked out.
Thanks. The person I practiced with this week is a really, really long-time friend who easily comes to me for advice, but I thought it was kind of a challenge to shift away from being the advice giver to being the partner, the independent partner, and shifting that expertise to him.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if other people have had that experience.
I was afraid there would be, because I've worked for my company for like 24 years, so I know everybody really well. I definitely didn't want to ask anybody who I'd worked with that long or who I knew that well. It would be awkward for me. So I was able to ask people outside that circle.
Yeah, that's definitely a win, Robin. And I think it is a challenge to work with people maybe you've known a long time, because it's harder to be curious because you might know more and it might keep you from asking questions. But I got to hear Mike's today. Could I share something, Mike, from our time? Do you say sure or no?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
So what Mike was saying was like he had to kind of retell his friend that he wasn't the expert, and he actually said that. And I think it's a great thing to do, even if it's not someone we know, just to say, remember, I'm not the expert. I'm not here to give you advice. And I thought it was really cool how Mike, because you're training a client, this is a different kind of relationship that they might have experienced with the coach before. But he reminded them, remember, I'm not the expert. Oh, okay. And then it just went over really well. So I just think that those kind of reminders are so helpful with, clients that have never experienced coaching before. Just remember, I'm not here to give you advice, or, I'm not the expert, you are, and empowering them. So I thought that was good. All right. Well, along those lines, Mike, do you want to share your coaching win or success?
Oh, I thought the practice session went well. Like I said, I don't know exactly if I'm going to continue with the same person. That's why I was asking Robin about her experiences. But yeah, I thought it was a great exercise. You know, we continued on after we stopped the recording and shifted in and out of client versus friend, coach versus friend roles. But I think every time that we dig a little deeper and do things a bit more on an applied basis, that it's more and more fun. It's more and more informative. So I'm looking forward to more.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. You're doing a great job. It's so fun hearing your guys' coaching. By the way, I've gotten to do a couple so far. I can't wait for the other ones. It's really cool. All right. Who would like to go next? Share their coaching win.
I'll go.
Sure. Thank you, JC.
I don't really know if mine was a win, but it was something that I'm going to have to deal with at some point, so kind of ripping the Band-Aid off. I did the practice session with someone that I'd known for a really long time, and it was a challenge to be more in the client coach role compared to having someone that I've known for, most of my life. It was good because I was really nervous. I don't know what it is about being recorded, but I got so nervous, and there were things that I did as like going through the session that I was like, oh my gosh, like that's not at all how I wanted that to come out, and I felt like I was leading. So it definitely was a challenge for me. I have a degree in health sciences, so nutrition and health and exercise comes very naturally to me, and I wanted to give more advice than probably what I should have, so I kept trying to go back to client and coach. So it was definitely kind of an eye-opener as far as trying to separate some of the work that I've done in the past with trying to become more of a coach in this setting. So something to work on. I'm slightly terrified for you to hear my recording because it was so bad. In some places I was so nervous, but the lady that I worked with was awesome, and I'm going to find somebody else to be my practice client who I don't have quite so many years of history with.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, JC. And I mean, I've been there. I've tried to coach my husband, and it is a mess. It does not work. Like he would stop me, like, you're trying to coach me. Like, even if I ask a question now because of like our practice time when I was in training, trying to coach him. But it's such a good learning experience. And I encourage you, JC, just to embrace a growth mindset. Just like, how can I learn from this? Because even though it's a challenge, it can help you grow, and there might be, challenges in the future. I still face challenges as a coach. Like, I still hate being recorded, honestly. And, embracing a growth mindset, I really encourage you to do that, because then it's, only up from here, continuing to grow and learn and, make the most of that. Like, and with your prior knowledge, and I know a lot of you have prior knowledge and experience, use that to ask really curious, insightful questions. Like, your knowledge base about nutrition, you could ask a more detailed question than someone who doesn't. And so think of that, like, you think of your experience as tools. You might not be able to act out of this position, but it's definitely going to benefit your coaching.
Thank you.
Thank you, JC. Appreciate you sharing. All right. It looks like we had someone call in. Who's with us on the phone?
Oh, that's me, Kanika. Sorry, I was a little late today.
Oh, no worries. We're just checking in around a coaching win or success. So I'll call on you in a minute, okay?
Okay, sure.
All right. Glad you could make it. All right. Who would like to share next?
I can do. I didn't record anybody with the way you coach over here, the way that you show to me the process. But I have done coach for a few people in different ways. Okay, and I'm gonna do my tape next week for you, like I told you today. But what I learned in this chapter number 6 is funny for me, because when I coach people, when I coach based in the goals, and I learn with the chapter 6 coach based in the process. Can you explain this more for me?
Explain that. Let's finish checking in and then I'll get to questions. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. Did you have a win to share? I know that we're getting your recording and you have some people to choose from, which is exciting.
Yeah, I do a life coach. I coach for a few people, okay, but it is in different way. The process is a little bit different than the process over here, okay. I cannot use that for sample, but next week I'm gonna record for you guys, and I'm gonna do the question based in your way.
I'm excited to hear, Eddie. It's gonna be good. And yeah, like I said, it's really cool that you have practice clients available, because sometimes it's really hard to find the right people to practice with.
I have a 4 guinea pigs. If you guys need guinea pigs, let me know. I can give you guinea pigs.
AKA practice clients.
Yeah, practice. Just for practice, you know.
Yeah. Thank you, Eddie. All right. What about you, Kellen?
Okay, so I just finished about 10 minutes before class started with my practice client. It went really well. I really enjoyed it a lot. She is a graphic designer that I had kind of worked with a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and I thought she would be a good person to ask, and it turned out that she really was. She's in a transition stage in life, and I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole process of just being curious. I kind of am like that. I love to ask people questions, and I love to learn about people, and I really enjoyed it. I did have one question about some of the markers that we were supposed to be aiming for.
Sure.
The creating a measure of success is what separates good from great session agendas. And I didn't quite know what that meant. I feel like I hit all of the other, markers that we were supposed to, but that one I didn't quite know what to do with.
Right. Okay. So for the measure of success, it's basically you ask, what do you want to focus on today? You get an agenda, and maybe you explore it a little bit. Why this topic, why is it important to you? But then, what do you want to take away? What do you want to get out of the session? That is the measure of success. It's what they want to get out of the time, so that you can check in at the end and say, did you get what you needed? And so the way that it makes it measurable is that there's a number attached to it. So I want to have one new perspective, or I want to have one new insight.
Okay. And if they're not exactly sure what they want from it, then what might your response be to that?
Yeah. So in designing the alliance, you'd want to probably talk about, it's important for me, like, what do you want to get out of our time together? How can I best support you? So I would bring it back to that. So you're saying you want to focus on this, what would be beneficial? So even if you don't know, what would you like to get? It's not like a bunch of pressure. It could just be like, oh, I want to learn one new thing about myself. That could be you. And especially with new clients, you can coach them around how to get a measure of success. So you can say, well, what if you did, one new insight about yourself and your life? How would that feel?
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're having a hard time, another thing that's, for example, if they're like, I just want to feel better about this area of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really measure. You could say, do you feel better? But you'd want to go, okay, so on a scale from 1 to 10, how are you currently feeling about that area of your life? Oh, okay, you're a 5. So by the end of our session, where would you like to be in terms of how you feel about that area of your life? And they say, okay, I want to be a 7. Well, what does a 7 look like? How will we know if you raise it to a 7? So you can actually put a measure to something that isn't measurable, like a feeling.
Okay.
So it's okay to take your time around that, but it does take time to coach your client around it, because it's something new. And most people aren't used to saying, this is what we're going to talk about, and this is what I want to get out of a time.
Mm-hmm.
But measure of success is really strongly related to ROI, which we call in coaching is it's basically being able to prove they're getting what they need. So it's measuring the investment, the return of investment. That's what ROI stands for. So it's proving, did they get what they invested? And so when you have that measure of success, each session that's showing, okay, did you get what you needed to get out of this time? And they say yes, they say no, then you're able to see and prove that the coaching was successful. So it's a very important part, but it's okay to take your time around it.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, let me know if you need any more clarity or examples around that.
Okay, will do.
Hi, Laura. I'm Hannah. I'm the trainer, and this is our class. I'm glad to have you.
Sorry I was late. The password they sent me from the class didn't work, and I couldn't get in, and so Emily had to send me the link directly.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, and if you ever need to reach out or get stuck like that, just please let me know. There's also a way you can call in if for some reason you weren't able to access the link. But while I have you on the hotspot, do you want to meet the class and introduce yourself? We'd love to hear about you.
Sure, I'd love to. So my name is Laura Hawley. I'm a doTERRA wellness advocate. I met John just this past weekend at our tribe retreat. And when their camper pulled into the RV park, I said, "That's our people." And I just learned about the program over the weekend. I've been wanting to be a life coach for quite a while now, just looking for the right program, and it all just kind of fell together, and here I am.
That's awesome. How do you see yourself using coaching and doTERRA?
Well, a lot of people who come to doTERRA to customer or business wise, I lead both. They want change. They want to do better. They're looking for a healthier, better lifestyle. That's what I represent to them. But they're stuck. And I have an agenda for people. I think I know what's best for people. And that's not how I can help people. And I'm finding that out the hard way, that when I come from that approach, I'm not able to help people move forward. So I'm here to learn how to help people move forward.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, there's been quite a few people that have done doTERRA, and it's so cool to see their unique, passion about it and how they're going to use coaching with it. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And when you go back to watch videos, usually when we first have our first class, we have everyone share a metaphor of like their personality as if you were a fruit or vegetable. Do you have something that comes to mind for you?
Fruit or vegetable? Wow.
Or you could use the doTERRA oil if you wanted.
I've never thought of myself as a fruit or vegetable. Is there anything that looks... That's why I got my hair done, because I look so boring from the outside, but inside I'm like this fire, this like flavor burst, and on the outside it's like, oh, she looks like a librarian. So I don't know what's like that. I don't know, maybe a kiwi. You look at a kiwi and you're like, oh, why would I eat a kiwi?
Too.
And then you get in there. Yeah, and then you get in there and you're like, ooh, I see now.
Yeah. Have you ever had a kumquat? They're like small and plain. They look like a little misshaped orange, but they're like so bright and surprising in your mouth when you bite into them.
I don't think I have, actually. I live in New York. So.
New York. Yeah, I don't see kumquats very often, and I'm in Washington State. Well, is there anything else you want to share about yourself? Anything else? Or anything you want to ask anyone in the class? Or?
Really, well, I'm excited to get to know everybody and as we go along and catch up.
Yeah, very cool. Is there anything that you need from us as a class to support you in this process?
Well, I guess the class should know that I'm also doing this for myself. Like I myself need coaching. So this process is going to help me as well. My past has been very hard, and I've had, very like negative vibration frequency patterns, negative psychology, like this very negative pattern and rut that, I've gotten into over the years. And doTERRA is bringing me out of it. So it's all very recent, and I run into blocks a lot, and you can't go anywhere in this business if you're blocked. And so I'm actively like trying to be more positive. And so if you ever catch me in that negative rut, like feel free to call me on it or help me see that I've gone back into that pattern.
I have a question, and it may seem dumb, and I'm sorry, but what is doTERRA? Is that what you're saying?
What is doTERRA?
Yeah.
Oh, doTERRA is an essential oil company.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I had the same question, so
okay, good. Thank you.
I know this company is a very good product.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for sharing.
Essential oil company. That's all.
Well, so glad to have you. And yes, if there's anything else along the way that you need from me as your trainer or from the class, feel free to let us know. Have you ever used Zoom before, Laura?
Oh yeah, we use Zoom all the time for our team calls.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're comfortable with it. All right, great.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. So we're just going around the room sharing coaching wins. So it's a win for all of us that we get to have you in our class. Kanika, you were the last one to go. Do you have a win to share?
Sorry, just 1 second. Yeah, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. So win in what sense? From the practice session or?
Just from the last week, or if there's over the last couple of weeks, if you've had a win, feel free to share.
Yeah, so it seems like I'm getting a couple of offers. I've been looking out for jobs, as you guys said, as I told you last time. So yeah, I'm getting excited. So yeah, I think I should sign an offer in a couple of days. So yeah, it's really exciting. I think that's been my biggest win. I've been looking about it since last few days.
Oh, cool. How does it feel now that you've taken steps towards that?
Oh, really amazing, actually, because it's always good to know what your market value is sometimes, just for assurance. So yeah, but I'm yet to decide if I want to, which job I should go for. So I think it'll all come down to work-life balance for me. But yeah, it feels great, absolutely.
Kanika, I think it's so cool how you're looking at your values and then looking at jobs that meet those values. Like, work-life balance is important, then you're not doing something that's not going to support that.
Absolutely. I think a baby just changes your perspective. I never thought of work-life balance before.
Well, very cool. Well, good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for sharing. And we don't get to hear Sarah's tonight, but she will be back with us next week. So excited to get into this material tonight. So we're talking about client's action. So Eddie, I know you had a question about the material for tonight. Could you restate?
Yeah, I have a question. In the chapter 6, we're talking about the focus on the process, not in the goal.
Yes.
Okay. Can you give me a detail about this?
Yes. So, for example, the goal might be to lose weight. So instead of focusing on the long-term goal of losing weight, they're focusing on the process, like the well-designed actions in the process to losing weight. So it's like, here's all the little steps you need to take to get to where you want to go. So it's the process to getting to your goal.
Okay. But why not focus on both, in the process and the goal? Because most people, they want to achieve the goals, right?
Right. So designing well-designed actions, it just means it's not that you're not aiming for your goal, but it's breaking it down so that something that can happen. And so they're making progress that they can experience right then and there versus a goal that's maybe longer off. So it's not like the goal's not talked about. It's that the steps of the goal, or it's one step at a time versus, okay, just lose weight. Versus, okay, maybe they make a goal for sleeping. Maybe they make a goal for, meal planning. Maybe they make a goal for exercise versus everything all at once.
No, I understand. To lose weight, we need to have a process to lose weight. Okay, it's clear. And when you focus on the process, that means you do a small action every step, every time to lose the weight. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. But the end, what they look for, what the people look for is completion the goal.
Yes.
When I coach, I focus in the process and I remember the people the goal, it look like keeping the people mind the goals. Because sometimes the people say, I want to lose 10 pounds, and in the middle they lost this focus, they lost the goal.
Right. Yeah, so you wouldn't want to lose track of the goal, like the big
exactly.
goal. But so it's, yes, you're designing actions that are in line with maybe the bigger picture goal, but they can celebrate those, the next week versus 10 pounds might be a while to be able to celebrate and feel empowered and making progress. So I think you still keep sight of the goal, but your focus is, okay, right here, right now, what can I control and move towards my goal with a well-designed action?
Yeah, it looks like we have a 10 steps to walk, and we're gonna focus in next step, because the important is do the action. The important is do the next step. But you cannot lose what you look for. You look for the end. You look for the goal.
Yeah,
I like when I talk to people. I break in small action plans. Okay, reinforce the next step, but always I remember the goal.
How do you help your client keep track of their big picture goal when they're doing little steps?
Every small step is a step, If I want to lose 10 pounds and I just lost 1 pound a week, I can celebrate 1 pound a week.
So you you help them break it down and you remind them of it?
Oh, yeah. Because the goal is eat the whole cake, but you cannot eat the whole cake once. You need breaking slats,
One slice at a time.
Exactly. And you enjoy. I'm happy because I did that, But what I see is a lot of people, they started doing something. They started doing a class, like your class right now. They started doing a class because they have a goal to complete the class, to get a certification. But between now and the end, they can change their mind. And what I like to do is break in small steps, celebrate a small win, small gain, small. If I lost half pound this week, okay, whoa, we lost half pound this week, But always I ask, what is the goal? What is your goal? What do you want?
Yeah, and that's a great thing to ask, especially as you start a relationship with the client. What are your goals? Yeah. And so as you, work with them session by session, they can maybe pick a big picture goal, maybe an area of their life they have goals in, and break it down to something that they can do right now. Those are great thoughts, Eddie. Thank you.
Just for make it clear, I understand we need to focus in the process, because the process is step by steps. It's clear for me. but I think we need to reinforce what they want, because a lot of people lost what they want.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I think it's important to keep where you're going in mind as you take the steps. Like, no one would say, okay, I'm going to look down and not pay attention to where I'm going. So I think that's very important. But I think, too, goals can be huge and overwhelming. Like, if someone has 80 pounds to lose, it's going to be overwhelming versus, okay, I can do 1 pound, 1 pound this week. That's so much more, like, right now they can do something about it. Versus sometimes the goal can be overwhelming. But like I said, when you're taking those well-designed actions, those steps, you would be paying attention to where you're going. So you make a good point, Eddie. Does anyone else have any thoughts about keeping a big picture perspective? Yes, Mike?
I think this is great stuff. I think another way to put it is maybe that the journey is as important as the destination. Mm-hmm. To me, the benefit in that is creating behaviors along the way that are sustainable. Mm-hmm. Because once you reach your goal, it doesn't mean that your journey is over. You're going to want to continue on that path. And if we only focus on the goal, then we don't ingrain in ourselves the lessons that are available to us along the way. Mm-hmm. So I think both are important, but that's kind of what I came away with and what I like to think about. I mean, this course itself is certainly a goal of being accredited at the end, but it's also a journey, as people have mentioned, of being coached along the way, and learning lessons that we can apply to our own lives and to our practice once we're done.
Mike, thanks so much for sharing. I loved how the way you put that, keeping an eye on the destination just as much as the journey, because sometimes we can get ahead of ourselves and feel overwhelmed by the destination and not embrace the journey and the everyday, learnings that we can make the most of and grow from. Great thoughts. Does anyone else have anything else to add to that?
I could add something.
Sure. Thanks, Kellen.
I've been looking at, I don't know if anyone has heard of SMART goals.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. SMART, it stands for specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. SMART.
Yes, and we definitely, I know prior to Coach Training EDU, that was something that was really focused on in coach training. For this specifically, a lot of what we focus on is it's, really measurable and specific. We just don't use the specific, the acronym, but it's, the right size, it's in their control. So it hits those points, but it's not using the acronym. But that's a great place to start. And I think, I still sometimes think, is this goal SMART, just because I'm used to it, but it's a great tool.
How come it's not used? I'm curious. Is there a reason, or?
I'm not sure exactly why it's not like the actual acronym, but I think it's more about, with what we focus on with clients' goals, it's in their control, it's specific, it's measurable. And so I think specific envelops, what it is, when you're going to do it. It envelops some of those other things. So it's just not the actual acronym's not used, but I feel like the elements are really present, if that makes sense.
Okay, thanks.
And there are, if you look up SMART goals, there's going to be probably a couple variations. Sometimes they stand for different things, but it's a great way to check goals against that. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable or attainable? I've heard it both ways. Is it realistic, and is it time bound or time specific? It's a great way to check actions. All right. Does anyone else have other thoughts? Okay. Well, while we're on this and we're getting into clients' action, I just want to talk a little bit about why this is session 6. So doing and action comes pretty easily to most of us. Oh, what should I do about that? Sometimes our, solution mindset is really right there in the forefront when there's a problem. okay, what should I do about it? That's usually where we automatically go. And so the benefit with having it later is that we've really been trying to stretch that muscle of, oh, I need to fix something. Instead it's been, oh, I'm going to explore this. And so that's why it's session 6, is because we want to put as much distance away from those initial concepts so that we can really get into, let's learn from this. Let's, let's explore this versus let's fix it, let's figure it out, let's find a solution. So that's why it's a little bit farther away, and it's been stretching muscles, because those doing questions tend to come pretty naturally. I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, sometimes the instant response to someone has a problem, what do you think you should do about that, right? What have you been trying? With those, like, it's trying to get them out of that discomfort, versus in this setup, we've had the chance to really explore, like, those learning and being questions are so valuable, because that's how we get well-designed actions, is that they've been explored and there's so much awareness, so that when it gets, time to set an action, a well-designed action, they have the awareness. And so I like to think of, okay, learning and being questions really fuel action. So when they have that awareness, it's not that you have to help them figure out how to do something. Usually they have the awareness of, this is what I want to do and why, and they're usually excited and really pumped up for it because they have that awareness. So that's the reason why this is a little bit later. It's session 6. And like I said, it's just so helpful to have that exploration, because our automatic response is to fix or find a solution. There's a lot of different, like, criteria for well-designed action. You'll see those in the book. Like, it needs to be measurable and specific. It needs to, be just the right size. It needs to be manageable. It needs to be positive, so it's stated in the positive. So it wouldn't be, if I don't do this, I'm gonna lose this. It wouldn't be that. It would be something that's positive and empowering. But the most important component of a well-designed action is that it's in the client's control, right? So if their well-designed action is to, like, I want to reconcile this relationship with so-and-so, well, they can't control every element of that. So that might not be a well-designed action, versus, oh, I want to talk to so-and-so and, give it my best. That's totally different, because that's what they can control. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So in thinking about this, I want to brainstorm with you guys, because this is something that I feel like comes up a lot, is, a client has a well-designed act, or an action step they want to take, but it's not well-designed because it's not all in their control. So how would you help them realize it's not in their control? Do you guys have any ideas?
Well, would you ask them, what did they expect the outcome to be? And what if it's not?
Yeah, you definitely explore the possible outcome. So if you take this action, what do you think will happen? That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on this?
Could you ask about roadblocks?
What could get in the way of you accomplishing this?
Yeah.
Definitely. So obstacles, or blocks, or what could get in the way of you being able to accomplish this? Well, I don't know how so-and-so is going to take it. Well, is so-and-so's part in this relationship, is that part of what you can control? And so that's a great segue into it. Any other thoughts on that? I personally am a big fan of being direct about it. Can you control every aspect of that well-designed action? How do you know you can control it? Is anyone else dependent on the success of this goal? Just being straightforward about it. And I think that's a really great way to maybe even explain to them, like, I want you to choose something that's really in your control so that you can absolutely achieve it. I think it's wonderful maybe that you want to work on your relationship with so-and-so, but remember, you can't control them, just like you said. They might have admitted like, okay, well, I can't control how so-and-so reacts. So kind of just reaffirming them and encouraging them, like, yes, it's great to aim big, but what can you actually, control right now? So that's really the most important element of a well-designed action, is that it's in their control. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on well-designed actions or about this component of control? All right. Well, let's dig into a demo then. So what we're going to do is, if you guys could pull out your wheels, we're actually going to use the wheels to generate learning. So really explore with learning and being questions before getting to action. Because like I said, those are you can't just go straight to action and have it be well designed, because there's not that awareness behind it. So what we're going to do is we're going to have, in your breakout sessions, you're going to do the same thing. So just make sure you have your wheel accessible. Laura, how are you doing with everything we're putting out there?
It's fine. I don't have a wheel, or I don't have anything yet, because when I went to log in, I couldn't. So I'm just here. Don't
Okay.
mind me.
Well, I'll make sure. Let's see. We have.
Hannah, do you want a blank wheel or one that's been completed?
One that you guys completed last week. But Laura, I'll make sure to work with you, and I'll get you caught up with the wheel, and so that you'll know what we're looking at. Does anyone have a wheel that they filled out from last week that they'd be willing to explore for about 15 minutes? Who is JC?
Yeah, if nobody else wants to. I'm sorry. I always feel like I'm hogging this, but I don't mind doing it.
I appreciate your willingness. Who was the practice client last week?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you get out of spotlight. Okay. All right. Well, JC, why don't we go for it, and then we'll all get an opportunity to do this as we go to breakout sessions. So what I'm going to do with JC is, we kind of already have an established agenda that we're going to explore her wheel, generate insights, ask learning and being questions, with the goal of her coming away with a well-designed action. So, Kellen, that's what the measure of success would be, is if she comes away with one well-designed action. That's the measure of success. So, JC, is there anything that you're curious about exploring today as far as your wheel of life?
Sure. I would love to talk about growth and how that relates to my career.
Okay. All right, so we're going to explore growth and how it relates to your career. And then would you be on board with coming away with one well-designed action after we do that today?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Great. All right, so I have to know why growth? Why the relationship to your career?
Well, especially right now with trying to kind of come up with a vision for my coaching business, and also my normal 40-hour-a-week job. I am noticing that as I try to put more effort into my coaching, I'm not growing as much in my everyday career. I'm trying to find kind of a balance where I can grow in both areas right now, because I need my job for right now. I would like to. I would like to have kind of a better idea of how they relate, I think, so I could kind of pinpoint where I'm dropping the ball a little bit.
Mm-hmm. The relationship between growth and career?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How would you define growth?
In my everyday job, I've only been in this role for about a year, and it's a new position, so no one else in my department does anything really like this, and my job has absorbed a few different part-time roles.
Okay.
So the growth is a lot it's up to me. And I work in a school of nursing, but I'm not a nurse. I have a public health and a health sciences background, so sometimes I struggle not really knowing how to grow my role, because I don't always know what would be beneficial to nursing students.
Right now, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident do you feel in your role?
I would say probably a 6, and I would really like to boost that a little bit. I've continually taken on new things every semester, so I haven't actually had a semester where I've repeated the same tasks over again without adding new responsibilities, and it feels as though every time I add something new, I drop something, or I forget something, or I mess up something that should be fairly easy, but I'm so focused on my new task that it's not flowing as well as I had hoped.
Yeah. Tell me about the word should, because you said it should be easy.
There are a lot of things that should be easy in my role, but due to some of the software programs we use, they're not always easy. Registering students should be an easy process. I should be able to go in and just see what students are in which sections of which class, but our software is limited in its capabilities, and so it's a lot of back and forth, and I have to be really, really careful with my record keeping track of things both on the computer and by hand to make sure nothing slips through the cracks.
Right. So when you're in this back and forth where you're depending on technology, what characteristic inside yourself do you depend on?
Attention to detail, patience. I try not to focus on perfection too much and just try to get the job done, because I do get frustrated when I send out a list to one of our hospitals that we partner with and then realize that a section was dropped somewhere and I have to resubmit paperwork. At the end of the day, if the students are where they need to be as far as clinicals, I should be happy.
Yeah. What happens when you leave work and go home?
I try to get in a workout, make dinner, get things ready for the next day. I kind of have a packed schedule for a few hours, trying to get things settled, and then I try to take at least an hour before bed to do something kind of relaxing. And weekdays are busy. Weekends are a little better, a little more recharging.
Right. So you mentioned, it sounds like you have time to refresh after going back and forth and figuring things out with work. What is it like for you having absorbed additional positions or responsibilities, and it sounds like you don't have the support?
It's challenging. The people that used to have these part-time roles have left the university. One of them doesn't mind if I reach out to her for help, but I mean, there's only so much that you can do. So no one else is responsible for these things. So I'm kind of figuring them out on my own, which is, it's fun as long as I have the time to do it. And I think with growth, in my mind, I thought I would be able to have a lot more time dedicated to kind of smoothing out some of these processes so they're not as clunky and there aren't as many mistakes. But I don't seem to have that time because I'm adding things and there's no one to teach me the process. I'm coming up with a process and trying to refine it kind of on the fly.
Mm-hmm. What would it be like if you had, let's say, an extra free hour a day?
For work or my personal life?
For work.
I would fill it. I would fill it. Yep. I would hopefully be able to dedicate that time to smoothing out some of the processes that are challenging right now before adding on new tasks.
Why is it important for you to have things smoothed out before you add new things to your plate?
I don't feel as though I'm growing if I'm not improving the tasks that I have. I feel like if I'm just kind of bombing through them and not actually improving them, I mean, it doesn't really feel like growth. It just feels like I'm getting by and I'm scrambling to do it.
What would feel like growth to you?
To be able to improve some of these processes where there are definitely glitches and kind of issues with the way we do things. Hopefully it would smooth it out a little bit so I don't have to resubmit paperwork as often because it's a very common occurrence. And hopefully if that was balanced a bit more, I might actually be able to leave work on time and have some time to grow, my coaching business and be able to split my time a little bit better.
Okay. I've heard a couple of words come up quite a bit: responsibility and time. So I guess what I'm wondering is, how are you growing in this process right now of having to not be able to get everything smoothed out and take on new things? How is that stretching you?
Focusing on progress instead of perfection, which goes against every fiber of my being. As far as responsibilities, probably, taking things on and coming up with new processes on my own. This is the first time I've been in a department where I am the only one who does the things that I do, and the people that used to have these roles are gone, so I'm kind of on my own. I feel like I just moved out on my own again, left my mom's house. And as far as time, I didn't think it was possible to cram as much into a day, but it gets done.
How does that feel to say that?
Kind of like you finish a race, but you end up crawling over the finish line. You finish, but it's not glamorous. Definitely not the way that you pictured it in your head.
What do you need to let go of so that you can grow in this situation, JC?
Probably probably continue to work on focusing on progress over perfection. I don't want to let go of the idea that I may be able to smooth out some of these processes to improve them, because I think that is important as far as growth. But if there was a way to let go of, not really let go, but put some of the responsibilities that I'm more comfortable with kind of to the side and focus on the ones that are new and really bumpy for you know, a set amount of time to try to smooth things out and tackle it one at a time instead of trying to fix everything at once.
Right. So it sounds like two different things. It sounds like maybe putting less pressure or being able to take some things off that aren't as important so you can focus on the bumpy things, as you said. And then you also said, remind yourself that it's about progress and not perfection. Well, just want to clarify, what connection does progress have to growth?
I don't think you can grow if you're not moving in some way. To me, progress feels like you're moving, you know, whether you're successful or not, you're not staying stagnant. And so I think for me, in my mind, the idea of progress is, you know, you trying things, if they don't work, then, you know, you adjust and try again. But I feel as though I can't grow without some sort of movement.
Right. So you just said you're making progress, but you're not happy with the growth in your career?
Yeah. It's messy. I don't love that.
You don't love that, or you do?
I don't love that it's messy. It hasn't been as rewarding as I thought it would be, just because it is it's bumpy and it's not pretty, and there are still so many things that need to be fixed as I'm kind of developing this role. But there's very limited time for that while I'm taking on new things.
Right. Right. Well, I just want to commend you and acknowledge you, JC, that, you know, even though things aren't all, you know, there's some bumpy things, you are like chasing after other things that are important to you. So I just want to acknowledge you for that. It's not easy when things aren't, like you were saying, like they're bumpy and you want to get them the way they are, but then where's the time? Right. So if you were to, I don't know, maybe fast forward a year and you are JC in 2018, what advice do you think 2018 JC would give you about where you're at right now?
Relax, get some sleep, keep focusing on progress over perfection. Eventually I would love to have a semester where I repeat most of the same responsibilities without taking on a giant chunk of something new. So I could at least get a few more things kind of under my belt so I feel comfortable with them. I'm starting my 4th semester, and there isn't a single thing that I can say, you know, I can do that without any issues. And so hopefully a year from now, I would be able to tell myself, you will get to that point where you will have things that aren't as challenging as other things.
Yeah. So here we are, like you have sounds like some great advice from your future self, like keep hanging in there, you'll get there. Focus on progress versus perfection. What comes to mind as far as a step in the direction of focusing on progress versus perfection?
Well, I mean, I feel like I say that mantra like a million times a day, but that's not really not really like a concrete step. I don't know.
What would it tangibly look like to focus on progress versus perfection on a day-to-day basis?
Tangibly, maybe being able to kind of cross something off my list and, you know, jot down a quick note about what worked for the process and what didn't, and kind of an idea for next time. A lot of the things that I do, you know, I only do 3 or 4 times a year because they're systematic with sending students at the beginning of the semester to do clinical rotations. So maybe just starting some little progress notes for some of the projects that I don't, that I might not pick up again for a few months, to say, you know, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, and this is where you're at starting next time around.
How much would that add to your plate? Because you're telling me there's a lot of time, there's not a lot of time to do other things.
Well, I have notes all over my office. I don't interface with the students in the classroom, so I only know them by name and on paper. So I have notes everywhere to make sure I know who is going where, at least on paper. So, you know, if it was another notebook, if it would help the process, I mean, I think it would be worth the time.
Do you think it would help the process?
I would hope so. I'm a visual learner, and sometimes writing things out just helps me process as, and I think it would, I mean, honestly, I'm terrified that something's going to slip through the cracks. I don't like that because that means the student gets let down somewhere. So sure, it would help. It would help if it would make sure there was less of a chance that a student would slip through the cracks.
How would that support like how you feel about your career if there's less students slipping through the cracks?
I think I would feel more successful. That's one of the things that really throws me off when a process doesn't go well, and, you know, a student gets messed up in a placement or in a clinical rotation because of, you know, my mistake or because of a paperwork error. To me, that doesn't feel successful, and that doesn't feel like I'm growing in my position. That feels like I am fumbling in my position.
So if there's more notes and the same mistakes that you made twice, like you're saying, if there's notes taken of like what worked and what didn't and what to try next time, how would that impact your growth in your career if there was less of that?
I think it would have a positive impact on the growth, where this is the first time that they've had anyone in my role. I mean, if I was to ever leave, I would need to have processes in place for my replacement. So, I mean, I think it would help me personally grow as far as getting organized and having less mistakes and be able to improve processes. But I think it would also help grow the role.
Mm-hmm. And JC, have you ever been in a position to be able to develop and grow a role before?
No, this is totally new to me. It's exciting, and overwhelming. I do have a really awesome staff that I work with, but we all do very separate things. So we support each other, but we don't often have a clue what the other one is talking about because our roles are so different. So it's really cool, but I also kind of feel like I'm out there on a limb by myself.
Right. How can you better support yourself?
As far as resources,
I don't know, just what comes to mind for you?
From a personal point of view, I would say, focusing on getting, being well rested when I go into work is kind of one of those things. You hit the floor running, and I go all day, and it's great. I mean, it makes the day go by fast, but definitely being well rested and taking care of my own kind of mental space. And then as far as at work, I could continue to reach out as needed to one of the ladies that used to have one of the part-time roles. I do have a few faculty members who check in fairly frequently because they lead the undergraduate and graduate programs. So they like to know what's kind of going on with placements. So I could probably lean on them a little bit if I needed some extra support, or just to kind of check in and see if they had any ideas about the process. They interface with the students more, and both of them have been in our department for probably as long as I've been alive. They have done a lot for our program. So I think I do have resources there as far as people who would be able to give me advice on what I could do to help fill gaps for the School of Nursing, where I'm not a nurse. Again, that's kind of hard for me to see sometimes.
All right. So sounds like you have a lot of great ideas of things that you can be doing. What might be one step that you could take this week in this area?
Well, the fall semester is coming up here in the next 3 weeks, so I could start making a list of some of the things that I know I'm going to have to do at the beginning of every semester with each of our programs, and make some notes on what worked really well this summer and what did not, and make sure I know kind of where those are at for the next semester, when we have to repeat some of those things to get ready for the spring semester.
Okay. So it sounds like evaluate the processes of the summer and write some notes so that going into the fall you have that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when will you get this list done by?
Well, it would probably be an ongoing thing, but I could, if I started it, this week at work, I could keep going with it right up until the semester started. There will be prep work that goes all the way up until the semester starts, so it would continue, but if I started now, I could kind of start organizing some things as far as our undergraduate program and some of our graduate programs, so I at least knew where things were at and they were organized, so I could actually use the notes and not just have them taking up space.
All right. So if you make this list, how is that going to make you feel about growth in your career?
For me, that's tangible. That's something I can see kind of the process of. I can touch it. It's right there. And I think that would help me feel like I was growing and making progress with refining some of these processes. Mm-hmm. And so many of the things that I take on, I do once a semester, and then I don't do it again until the next semester comes along and we're at that point again. So I think that would also help me feel a bit more confident in making sure that I know all the steps that I need to go through to make sure things don't slip through the cracks. And hopefully it would cut down on some of those mistakes that, you know, I end up having to resubmit paperwork because of, and it would kind of be like a handy little guide to help myself out the next time around.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything I can do to support you in this goal or this action?
Accountability.
What kind of accountability would you like to see?
Maybe checking in to make sure, you know, when I wrap up a step, I am taking the time to make a note about it, because it's one of those things that it's really easy to say you're going to do, and then, you know, you wrap one thing up and you start on another, and then before you know it, you've wrapped 4 or 5 things up and you still haven't written them down. So maybe coming up with some sort of way of helping me stay accountable to writing down kind of the processes for each project that I'm tackling.
Okay. How about, would you like me to check in with you maybe next Wednesday? We also send an email?
That would be great.
Ask how it's going? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, how do you feel, JC? How did we do?
I think we did well. I feel more organized. Just kind of talking it out makes it feel more, that's, I was going to say tackleable, but that's not a word. It feels
manageable.
Yes, thank you. There we go. God. Yes, it feels much more manageable, and it feels like I can grow in this role even while I'm just making progress and don't have it at a perfect state yet.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you, JC, for letting me be a part of that. And that was cool to watch you realize, oh, progress is some sort of growth.
Yeah, it's a new mindset for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So what we're going to do in breakout rooms, we're going to take the next half hour, and what we're going to do is same thing. Take your wheel and explore, ask learning and being questions, and then help your client come up with a well-designed action. Do you have a question, Kellen?
Yeah, I do. I actually have 2 questions. I really enjoyed listening to that, and I thought that you asked great questions. The 2 that I have, the first one I want to ask because it's like I said the last class, I have trouble getting around the idea of asking a question to someone that I would have trouble answering. So when you asked her, what would it be like if you had an extra hour at work every day? You don't have an extra hour. So is that really, like, what's the benefit of asking that question?
JC, what do you think what the benefit of that question?
That question was hard for me because, you know, I don't have an extra hour. And I thought, you know, in an ideal world, if I had that extra hour, I would just keep filling it. There's always going to be more to do. And that kind of was like a trigger, like no matter how much I try to tackle in a day, when I leave, there's going to be things that aren't done. And I mean, you could always use more time, but you kind of have to limit yourself at some point. So you kind of save your sanity.
Right. And so, Kellen, for me as the coach, I had this intuition, like, JC's just going to keep on taking more and more. And this, you know, she wants to strive for things being perfect. And so that's a lot. And so my in that asking question wanted her to realize that there's always going to be more. And that's what, so I guess it was just an intuitive, like, oh, you know, let's see what happens with that question. And I believe I followed it up with, you know, what do you need to let go of? Because
that's actually my next question. What do you need to let go of? What happens when you are working with a client that can't give good answers to questions like that? What if they feel like their problem is completely intractable, and with all those questions that you're asking them, they give you nada, nothing? What do you do in that situation?
That's a really good question. What I would say is, are we focusing on, if they kept not wanting to, or it was like a shutdown, is kind of what you're saying, like they just don't have a response.
Yeah.
I would first reevaluate the agenda and how important it is to them, and maybe redesign the alliance, because sometimes it's a little harder to open up, and it might be a time to design, like, is there a better way I could be asking you questions? Is there a way that you'd like to be asked or challenged? But usually it's something you can explore. I've never had someone who's completely shut down, but usually there might be a sensitive area they're not ready to talk about. And so I might go back to the agenda, and maybe there's something else that's more important that they are wanting to talk about, and that's why they're not feeling this area. So I might ask, I noticed that, that you're quiet. He's even asking about their silence, or asking about, the short answer, or, what's going on right now as I ask this question, because they might be feeling shut down. They might be experiencing something they're not ready to go into. Mm-hmm. And I want to be respectful of that as the coach. And there might be something else that it's more important to them. Mm-hmm. But I've never experienced a complete shutdown. Sometimes
right.
I find there is an area that maybe they're not ready to go into.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't be afraid to ask about silence, or ask about, what's going on in your head as you heard that question. Because even if they don't have the answer, they might know how they're feeling. Like, what emotion came up for you? Oh, I noticed you tensed your shoulders. What are you experiencing right now? There might be something there. Okay. All right, great questions. All right, so we're going to breakout rooms. So the purpose of this is to really get to the well-designed action. So I had a little bit more time with JC, but we're going to really try, actually it's going to be more like 10 minutes each. So maybe if, you've had, pick an area maybe you've already had some learning in, but the whole point is to get to that well-designed action. So yes, there needs to be some learning and being, there maybe needs to be, be an agenda besides get a well-designed action. What area of your life, your wheel of life, would you like to explore? But really focus on getting something that's in their control, it's just the right size, it's measurable, specific, it's positive. It's not, punish myself if I don't do this. It's something that they're excited to do, and it's empowering. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so we're going to cut it a little bit shorter because we have another thing we're going to do after this. So aim for a well-designed action, 10 minutes each in coaching, and then we'll come back, debrief, and then we're going to do another exercise. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording.